click the subscribe button. If you're already subscribed, can you watch the whole video? It really helps a lot. Thank you. Tend to be easily distracted? Trouble with learning? Are you always on the go? Sound like a lot like ADHD? Well, today I'm talking about the most commonly undiagnosed, misdiagnosed condition, low latent inhibition, or LLI.
People who suffer from low latent inhibition see everyday things just like you or I do, like this lamp, for instance. But where we just process the image of a lamp, they process everything. The stem, the bulb, the bolts, even the washers inside. Their brains are more open to incoming stimuli in the surrounding environment. Other people's brains, yours and mine, shut out the same information. We have to do it in order to keep our sanity. If someone has a high IQ, it almost always results in creative genius.
In these examples, we're going to have 4 different scenarios. This one is a normal person, and you can see that their focus, it stays on the changed stimulus, and that's it. Now this is ADHD, and kind of what tends to happen is they know that that one's changed, but they continuously check all the others, and then they go back, okay, yeah, this one's the only one that changed, and that'll continue. And with low latent inhibition, this is just general, like, as you can see, everything's always in focus. It's like, okay, yeah, the green one, but what about these and these? You're keeping track of all of them at the same time. You don't really care which stimulus is what. Now, low latent inhibition with hyperfocus, you kind of eliminate everything else that's around you, and you get into what's called like a flow state. Flow state's often referred to like the zone, or what athletes get into, you know, like LeBron. That's what everybody says that you should train to get into, so that you don't lose focus, that just kind of everything else kind of fades away. And honestly, that's what LLI and a high IQ allows people to do. Real quick, we'll look at something boring for everybody else. Aluminum can, you know, the lip design, it's not been changed really since 1985. Yeah, sometimes they put like a little curve or something towards the back of the tab, but that's really it. Now, why is that? So whenever I pick up the can, I'm looking at that. I'm looking at all the contours. I'm looking at why the tab's shaped the way it is, why the thicknesses are different, why they have variable. Why is that tab section, the hole, always an oval? Why is it always at that orientation? Obviously it's because of pressure, thermals, how much pressure is applied from the tab to open it, but why can't it be rotated? That may not sound like a big deal to think about once or twice, but imagine if you drink a couple of drinks like that every day, and every time you see somebody drinking one, you think, why can't that be changed? Why can't the font be raised on more cans? Why can't the design be different? Why can't there be different kinesiology? You know, the way we interact with the cans, the way we get them out of containers, those sort of things. And you know, that's just, it's a lot every day to just kind of think about. So now we're gonna get into the meat of this and what everybody's probably here wanting to know about: gaming. Now, typically, if you've been following me since like 2020, all you know is that I play Fortnite. But in 2014, while at university, me and my friends, we actually used to play League of Legends and play really good. Unfortunately, I don't have any screenshots of me and the scrims, but yeah, so we ended up playing with like Turtle, other Cloud9 members, TSM. It was just crazy. You know, college, engineering, all that gets in the way, so I kind of took a step back from that. So in 2017, when World War II dropped, me, my 3 roommates, we all got on it. Hadn't really played COD. We started dropping. You know, I went over a lot of the mechanics of the game, and I just looked at the patterns of what people do, certain maps, those kinds of things, and we literally went from dropping like 2 or 3 limbs a game, 2 or 3 kills a game, to we were dropping 30s, 40s, like consistently, so much to the point that we started having a competition to see who could get the highest amount of kills with the lowest deaths. I think after I had moved out, my roommate actually sent me a video of him getting like a 31-0. So it was just crazy. But at the time, I really didn't know about the competitive scene as much. Like, you would think I would have learned some from 2014, but I just didn't. You know, I wasn't really interested in it. I was more into like learning cinematography, color correction, all of those things more based in cinema. I was learning how to use Houdini, which is used in music videos, all kinds of stuff. That's the other thing of LOI. You basically can learn anything and pick it up immediately. It's, you know, one of those things. So as things progressed, friends played Fortnite, other stuff, everybody bugged me, and chapter 2 season 1, I decided, you know what, I'll give it a shot. We can swim, we can fish, snipers look like they're fixed. With that came learning a lot of predictability things. Now I'm just constantly trying to get better, so there's a lot of things I have to improve on. And one of the things with LOI is when you learn, you have to learn in the core building blocks and stack everything on top of each other, because without that, nothing really makes sense. It's weird, because you notice every little detail, so you're always wondering, well, does this affect this, does it affect that, you know, like if the grid's like this, do I move this like this? So everything is very micro, and then we put all that together to understand the whole macro. So one of the biggest patterns is zones, and I'm going to play some footage right now from the most recent FNCS. This is Wes with 100T Arkham. This is from WizGood's chat, and he was streaming a viewing party, and I'm just like telling him, you know, I've had this zone before, this is where the zone's going to go, and it's spot on. And I've had this zone in several different tournaments, and it's just easier to recognize, like probability wise, statistically, this is where this is going to go. And moving zone is one of those things that a lot of people say you can't really predict, which I'll admit, you know, you really can't, but you have a higher probability chance of predicting the correct location once you've played over, you know, 1,000, 3,000, 4,000 games with moving zones. Now obviously maps, placements, there's a lot of things that go into that, but you can do that. How does LOI affect me as a player? Well, when I first started playing, one of the first comps I played in was Lackey Cup, and I played with a team that's not competitive. It's just me and my friends, you know, we were messing around, but I was able to save my team. I don't have the clip of it because I really didn't understand replays and that couldn't save everything. Yeah, that's a whole mess. But we rolled into Pleasant Park, and at one of the houses, I heard somebody reload an AR. Now at the time, my team didn't have any ARs. We had shotguns, SMGs. That's what we were rolling with. And I hear them reload, so we all stop. I'm like, guys, did anybody reload? And they're like, no. So immediately, I tell them, there's a team in the house. We've got to find them. Everybody else on the team was like, no, there's nobody in this house. So we looked, we found them, we got a team wipe. It was great. So that sounds good, right? Well, also, it helps me with like figuring out when to push, not to push, because during a fight, you know, most people will wait until there's like silence in the middle. Usually the silence, the non-shooting part, you know, because like this person's healing or whatever, that's what they assume. But for me, I don't rely on that, because really what somebody can do is they can shoot like 3 or 4 AR shots, wait, not need to heal anything, and just literally wait for you to move and then just triple spray again. So what I like to do, unfortunately, with LOI, as I'm playing, trying to figure out my edits, my builds, the rotation, I'm also keeping track of the enemy's bullets. Now obviously I don't know how many they have, but you know, like an AR's 30 in a clip, so if they shoot like 12 times, you immediately know they have 18 shots left. And you can tell also by the sound, but when there's a lot of ARs being shot, it's really hard to hear all the differences. Take that into consideration, and then go into like box fights, any kind of fights like that. It's mentally taxing to keep track of all of your mats, your ammo, your health, zone positioning, rotating, how much time you have, because like time and zone rotations, even though they're the same, they're not, especially when you correlate that with your health, because you can like tank so much zone, especially when you consider siphon and other things, but you have to be able to do that math in your head. So if you're doing that, but then you're also like judging how much ammo an enemy is shot and estimating how many builds, and that's really weird. But you know, like a 1x1 is 40 to 60 to like 100 mats. You know, it just depends. You know, 4 walls, top and bottom, right there is 60, and then if they have a cone, that's 70, and if they put a cone in the bottom, that's 80, and it just depends, like, did they break a staircase? So like basically each little section on the grid, you can think that's 80, 80, 80, and then you can do math really quick, and then you have to take in consideration, is that person building out of metal, wood, are they switching between brick, you know, I'm not using fire, so all these things, that's really, really taxing. And then that's not even considering like heals, heal offs, floppers, cabbages, peppers, you know, the health, the movement ratio, and not only are you keeping track of that for yourself, but everybody that's alive. So, you know, a lot of people at this point will say, well, that's what every pro does, that's, you know, that's what you have to do, right? But they're able to, like a normal person is able to block out, like, okay, I don't need to pay attention to that team, they're over there, this team, you know, you can focus on one team and pick out who you want. Whereas with LOI, you are literally, until you go to the hyper focus state, which you can't be in that all the time, it's just not possible, right? So you're literally keeping track of like 12 teams. You know, 12 teams, that's 36 players at one time. So you can imagine how taxing that really is. So kind of like, if you guys kind of understand now like how LOI, it makes you think different, it makes you observe everything different, it makes you really understand like a cause and effect, or a cause and why, or like, oh, this works because they did this and this and this ahead of time. Like once you understand that, that's kind of what LOI makes you do, and it makes you understand the fundamentals of everything, like all the little pieces, then you understand like why editing and build battles are so addicting and just stimulating neurologically, because A, they're always different, and B, there's just so many different combinations, and just learning all of those and learning how to get to certain points quicker, it's just so much fun. Now, I don't have like a centillion hours of practice in yet, so there's a lot of stuff like certain double edits, triple edits I still like struggle with, side jumps, all those things, right? One thing I really want, and I actually asked Xanax60 for this, and he's kind of like, why would you need this? But I really want a creative map that has a grid, like a 3D grid from top to bottom, and like it can only be like 10 builds high, like 10 by 10, but I need a visual grid so I can see, because a lot of times what I'll do is I'll do like staircase, double staircase, but then I'll grab like the builds like 2 builds back to do another staircase and go forward, or I'll do like a top and bottom floors, and that's to like kind of like quick tunnel around and go up somebody else's build for like retakes. And figuring out the mouse placement consistently for that, because like it just really depends on what the opponent does compared to like the grid. But it's hard, like I can visualize the grid, right? But it's hard to consistently train and practice for how you want to build without that grid, because you don't know at what angle you always need to move your mouse back. Like how far do you need to flick back to grab that so you can build 1-2 pieces and then actually build the piece that's above you. So that's really why I want that. Yeah, so that's just like a visual way that I need to really understand, because I understand the core building grid in Fortnite comes from the Unreal Engine. That's really what it's from. So like just going in like 2021 into 2022, right? Because I'm not really well known right now, but I have been posted on Fortnite Intel News. I've been in some Red Arcade montages, which obviously if you send me your clips you can do that, it's pretty easy, but you know, and I've played with some large streamers like Jack, Spencer, Natalie Rose, and the list goes on. I'm in literal group chats with some other pros like T1 pros, right? And that's just, you know, that's how it is. And my plans are to just keep improving, and hopefully by 2022 I'll have a team, we'll be good enough, we can go play LANs. And yeah, until then, I wanted to shed some light on low latent inhibition, because everybody's talking about ADHD, which is highly important, but I feel like not a lot of people know about low latent inhibition.